Should be topic number 2 tonight. Is this life imitating art or art imitating life? What can we do about it? This takes us to Instagram, it seems. I'll play the video and then I'll play it like twice or so because I can never get these to start from the beginning. I'll play it twice and we'll talk about it after.
Society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Oh, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of the... Oh, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard. You liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Oh, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of the... Oh, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard. You liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Oh, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of the... Oh, you conservatives.
All right, I had to let that play a couple times because it didn't start off at the beginning. I used to know the name of this film. I can't remember it anymore for some reason. I don't know if it's... I don't think it's eugenics. I remember watching that because they also talk about white folks too and how there's some white folks who are predisposed to poverty and things of that nature. So I would like to watch that again, actually. Someone asked me about movie reviews recently in a comment, and I forgot to respond. But yeah, I plan to do more movie review stuff in the future as well. In the chat, we get a lot of responses here. The matron said, "This is art explaining life." I like how she put that. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, "Definitely art imitating life because these are employed tactics that they have been using for thousands of years. The tactics employed by the American liberal has been used by the Brazilians." 4Kast says he remembers this clip and he says, "Yes, art explaining life." Brother Bakari says, "Life imitating art. Art is something that you create. This system and our reaction to the system is something they created." New York Sports Archives is yes, that's it. New York Sports Archives is here. Peace to them. They said that the movie, he thinks the movie name is Drum. Yeah, I think it is Drum. Yeah, I think it is Drum. So yeah, so you guys could look that up. Maybe we could break it down one day. If you're interested, hit me up. I'm always up to do a good movie review. Let's talk about it. Uh, Carl, is this life imitating art or art imitating life? What can we do about it? That's the important part.
I think it's definitely art imitating life. This is definitely it's definitely a tactic that's been used to kind of divide and separate uh, black people, African people. I think it was Carter G. Woodson. He was, second black person to graduate from Harvard after W.E.B. Du Bois. He said that Harvard has ruined more Negroes than bad whiskey. Him speaking back in the 1930s. So even back then, he recognized the tactic being used. You take a certain class of black people, you lift them up, you alienate them from the rest of them, and then he works against you. And these are the tactics that the European has used against every people they've conquered and subjugated. It's not anything new. I guess I'm maybe what we can do about it is we can stop letting them divide us based on regional differences, the language we speak. Um, it's really an insidious tactic. It keeps us at each other's throat. But yeah, as far as what we can do about it, I think we need to have more solidarity within our people. We tend to divide it over the simplest things. When some people, they don't mess with people who are of a certain religion or speak a certain language or come from a certain region of the world. And these we're all oppressed by the same system. We're all dealing with fallout from the same crap. So, the idea of, we take the smart ones out. What makes them smart? Just book learning, just learning from a book doesn't make you intelligent. But you have to be able to relate to your people. So many of us think we attain some level of, you know, comfortability in this system, and we look back at our brothers and sisters and we're like, well, if I did it, how come you couldn't do it? Instead of reaching back and helping them, you know, come up the ladder with us. So I think that we have to really understand what exactly what's being done to us, and not just understand it, but also try to counteract it. Don't just be so quick to cut each other off for silly reasons. And I'll leave it there. Thanks, Koki.
I appreciate that, Carl. Thank you for that. Side note, apparently the forecast says he got dinged. He got a community strike on his channel. So he's going to be using his other channel this week, which I think is this one, the 4Kast Radio 24 is his other channel. So you guys make sure to subscribe to this channel for forecast as well. While he maneuvers around this community strike stuff. I'm sorry to hear that forecast. Buana, is this life imitating art or art imitating life? What can we do about it?
I think that I think that Matron hit the nail on the head when she said that this is actually art explaining life. I think that that's them five simple words. I think that she explained what's going on here. And we see this. The playbook never changes because these guys are so confident that they could put up the playbook on public media for everyone to watch, and we still act it out. It's interesting because if I look at some of the politicians here, when they come from meager beginnings, low beginnings, and they talk and they sound like the people. They talk about they talk in terms of the interests of the people, what they're gonna do when they achieve power, all these other things. But when they get in actual power, their conversation change. It sounds completely different. And it plays out even in the States. You listen to some rappers, for instance. Some rappers when they get coming out of the mud, you hear their life stories, where they're coming from, and their eagerness to change their situation. And then when they actually get money, the conversation changes. Let's be all, we just one people. We just want to love everybody. It's an interesting dynamic, but you see it play out continually. And I don't understand why we don't attempt to change the playbook. I'll attempt to address the cure, what I believe the cure should be. I believe that the cure is the idea of social status. Social status. Yes, you may have the ability to acquire things, a nice big house, a nice big car. And for the minds of the regular American dream or Bahamian dream or anyone who want to attain a certain level of success, what do you define as success? They after they attain these things, they believe that they have arrived. Therefore, I don't have to condescend anymore. I don't have to go back to the hood. I don't need to be around certain groups of people. I don't like oxtails no more. I need some steak. I need some steak. This is what these people tell themselves. But I think that what how we look at our social status is given to us by the other people. So that shouldn't necessarily be our paradigm just because it's theirs. The paradigm should be so what, I could acquire a nice house and a nice car. So what? You know what I mean? Yes, I want to live in a good neighborhood where the people around me who is not going to rob me, molest me, or harm me. Of course, everybody wants that. Everybody wants a semblance of peace. But that shouldn't be our level of what we believe that where we arrive. I've arrived because I've gotten these things. These things to make, the idea of me ascending to a particular level. I've arrived now since I've acquired these things. That shouldn't be our paradigm. That's their paradigm. I think that we should make up our paradigm for ourselves. And a reasoning or rationality for us to acquire these things shouldn't be just to get the nice young girl and things of that nature. And we should try to influence what they perceive as having something in life or arriving at a certain social status in life. Because sometimes it's only through us trying to impress them we run off to acquire these things. I think that social status of what we believe to arrive in life or in society, I think that with us that needs to change. I think that we need to question that. So there won't be this division. So what? My homeboy live in Hollywood. So what? I'm about to go up here in Hollywood and hang out just like we used to hang out in South Central. There's no difference now because the idea of me acquiring these things, it doesn't matter anymore. Therefore, I gonna still keep my ear to the ground. Now, for me to go back in the hood, I should still be safe, just as safe as I am in going into the Hollywood Hills. Granted, the police officers can still stop me more and trying to go to my house in the Hollywood Hills. But that social status that we perceive as having arrived in society, I think that with us, we need to change our paradigm. That shouldn't be the premise of us being better than our brothers. And I think that that's how the distinctions are made. And they give you or allow you access to acquire just so much to take you away from that, to take you away from your community. Even though they don't have nothing to do with you in their community either. This is the joke. Because after people, you get the masters and PhD, you get the professional degrees, and you drive and you go into their neighborhoods, they don't want you around them. What's the point of that? So I think that for us, I think that our premise of social status we need to finagle that a little bit. You know what I mean? We are what we consider to be having of arrived should be something a little bit different. I believe, but I'll stop there.
I appreciate that, Buana. Oni, is this life imitating art or art imitating life? What can we do about it?
Well, I mean, I think it's a pretty interesting scene. But it reminds me of this. I was just looking it up. This one of my favorite quotes from Roots. So everybody knows Alex Haley wrote this book called Roots. In the second paragraph of chapter 24, he's talking about the initiation that Kunta goes through while he's in Africa, like while he's still in Africa. And they say, okay, so for the next half moon, Kunta and his mate learned how to make war. And his mates learned how to make war. Famous Mandinka battle strategies were drawn in dust by the Kitango and his assistants. And then the boys were told to reenact the strategies in mock battles. And so here's my favorite part. He says, never completely encircle your enemy. Counsel the Kitango. Leave him some escape for he will fight even more desperately if trapped. And then I think he goes on. The boys learned also that battles should start late afternoon, so that any enemy seeing defeat can save face by retreating in the darkness. But that whole thing of don't encircle your enemy. Okay, always leave them some kind of escape, right? Because they're going to fight more desperately if trapped. That's kind of what they were talking about in that clip, right? In that clip, they were saying, hey, look, don't leave don't leave black people like with no option, with no escape, no exit, right? Because when they have no option, no escape, they're going to fight. Okay? What you do is you give them certain options. Now, there was this guy, I don't know if you call him a scholar, but Claude Anderson, he was talking about meritorious manumission and how, during the time of African enslavement in America, a lot of African people, during that time, as an enslaved African, you could get emancipated if you betrayed your own people. Like if you did something to advance the Europeans in some way, like if you save a white man's life or something, right? Or if you stop an insurrection or something, you can get freedom for yourself, right? Now, obviously, you stop an insurrection, you get a lot of your own people killed, okay? But you help out this white boy. So, but the whole thing is that, yeah, if you do something for these white folk, you scratch their back, they can scratch yours. Like if you do something major for them, they can do something major for you, right? That in and of itself made it so that, hey, yeah, if there's an insurrection going on, you now like it could be in your self-interest to betray it, right? As opposed to if white people are like, I don't give a shit what, like I'm not gonna give you guys anything, right? You will probably join it, So it's interesting that Alex Haley, records this sort of thing. Now, granted, he could have gotten this from anywhere because everybody knows Alex Haley drew his literature from multiple sources, but I think it's pretty interesting, and it speaks to that same point of the Democrats and the Republicans, i.e., the Democrats really, um, really being a way up, if you will, or really offering social mobility to black people that the Republicans don't. But of course, to what extent that's beneficial to white people, to what extent that's beneficial to black people, isn't really fully articulated. But you will notice that black people in America, especially if you look at what Carter G. Woodson was saying, like are relatively docile. Whereas, and that's actually pretty interesting. If you guys watch that other movie, Good Luck, Good Luck, Nat Turner, or something like Goodbye, Uncle Tom, maybe. But like in that story, in that movie, they show the Native Americans. The Native Americans were encircled. Okay, they had no escape, and so the Native Americans were fighting to their death. Like fighting till the end. Whereas, and that in that movie, they kind of contrast between African Americans and Native Americans in that sense, in the sense of, yeah, the Native Americans were encircled, and so they kept fighting, whereas African Americans also had no escape. But they, yeah. So I mean, African Americans also had, like, African Americans really had no escape, but at the same time, you see that meritorious manumission thing that kicked in.
I think I think that this I think
Go
that
ahead.
this goes yeah, I think that this goes back in terms of what Oni was saying. I think it goes back to a simple concept. He whose stomach is the emptiest fights the hardest. And I think that these people will give you just enough to put something in your stomach to cause you to not want to fight anymore. See, the Haitians, their stomach is empty. That's the way some of them. Their stomach is empty. They have no choice. Either we go fight to get this food or we gonna perish. So, but But if you pin them in with the Bahamian, they have enough food in their stomach to show up for work in the morning, to keep going on that treadmill over and over and over again. And that's the game they play. They give you just enough to come back at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock in, and do the things that you need to do on their behalf. But when they remove that, that's when you're going to get a more determined fight, I think.
But one of the things I always wonder, and I guess different people, different mindsets, right? But to me, I believe if I had seen this movie, and I did see it, right? I saw it many years ago. Like I said, they also talk about Paul White's pretty badly in this movie too. But I would think a good portion of people would wake up to what you're being told here. So what is it really? Is it really the fact that if you play hard enough, you could make it to the NBA? Or if you rhyme well enough, you could make it on Oprah, you could make it on TV? Is that so? Is that star so bright that even when you see this stuff explained to you as simple and as poignant as it's being explained in this scene and throughout this movie, are we to believe that the brighter lights of entertainment and whatnot makes you just oblivious to this stuff?
I mean, some people only care about themselves. Some people are aware of this, and at the end of the day, they really only care about their own self-improvement. So they'll see something like this, and instead of taking the lesson that we take from it, that is, we need to resist this, other people will be like, well, you know what? I need to be one of those smart ones. So it all goes back to the level of consciousness that you have within you. So some people are going to lean towards becoming that smart guy who gets accepted by white society. Some people don't really want liberation. They just want a comfortable life. And that's why some people would look at this and take an entirely different lesson from it.
Also too, never underestimate them. The importance of a dream. I think that the West produces masterful dreams for people to try to acquire or attain. You see this prominent NBA person or entertainer who comes from nothing, who looks just like a group of poor people coming from nothing. You build these people up and get them to perform and do different kinds of things, and people look at that. People coming from their communities and say, I could be like that too. The NBA sells that dream continuously to young boys. So they spend hours and hours and hours on end trying to get a job or a position that 99.9% of people will never acquire or get or attain. And we will spend the majority of our young life trying to attain that one job, which probably only 150 people will get. Just the dream of you taking your mother out of misery and putting up into a better. So, but they would never. The reality is, if you spend the same kind of time and focus on something like even being the best engineer you could be. The world needs engineers. The world needs plumbers. The world needs carpenters. And if you take that time you spend in trying to get to a job where 99% of people won't get, and try to get a job with maybe 20% of people, obviously it's 50%. Better the percentages. You could be a great engineer and still make the same amount of money and still take your mommy out of squalor. They will never sell you that dream. That dream is something that's not sold to our young men or women. So they don't take the time, the 8 hours and 9 hours of the day trying to shoot a hoop rather than trying to solve an engineer equation. I mean, this is the trick they play with us. But they sell you this dream because they know how effective it is. Now you have thousands and thousands and thousands of young men at 25 whose only skill is to put a basketball in a sphere or rap a rap song, even though they didn't get a record deal. Where do you place them? They are skillless. So they're gonna they're going to be recruited among the lines of the skillless labor. And America, or the West, not even America, needs an unskilled labor force to ensure their corporations and factories. They need that unskilled labor to fill the prisons, the private prisons. So you have to sell them that dream. Have to sell them that dream. They don't talk about the dream makers. They just sell the young people who don't know any better the dream. And people go for that all the time. We go for that, but I'll leave it.
No, I appreciated that, Juana. Does anyone else want to add anything? Last thoughts here? All right. Let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 3. Good discussion, everyone.